Greetings everybody, I'm Lobo. Welcome to Luna. This is episode 169 of my Minecraft survival series, and today we're going to be working over at the quarantine district of Wolfins Laboratory. And boy, do I love working for Wolfins Laboratory. I'm definitely not saying this for the benefit of the eavesdropping spy sheep over there. Okay, so between you guys and me, I'm pretty sure that sheep is a spy, so we're gonna keep this quick and quiet. We're on a mission for LOL, Loonies against Wolfins Laboratory, to figure out what Wolfins Laboratory is actually up to. Alright, so yeah, boy, love working for Wolfins Laboratory. This is gonna be great. Ow. Okay, that's a trip hazard right there. Somebody's got to fix that. But we put up a sign or something. Anyway, we're going to be building the Wolfins Robotics and Artificial Intelligence Development Decoy Division today. Not to be confused with the Wolfins Laboratories Robotics and Artificial Intelligence Development Defense Division, which we'll work on at some later date. Alright, so I'm just trying to figure out how we're going to lay everything out here, because we are going to have two robotics sections in this area, but we can't have the one we're working on today encroach upon this one space, even though the builds will eventually kind of overlap a little bit. So I'm thinking we might have to go down a little bit to give us enough room in this first section to actually build what we want to build here, because we're constructing robots, right? And we do have plenty of room down here to build it. And I think I figured out the layout of today's build, and I have a rough idea of how we're going to actually be building it. Oh my goodness, that's embarrassing. All right, sorry guys, bear with me here for a second. We got the footprint laid out, and basically I'm seeing a three-story production facility dedicated to mass producing these decoy robots. So what exactly are decoy robots, you may ask? Well, I had that exact same question, so I did some digging through the archives and came across this announcement right here. So we'll go ahead and see if this can give us a better idea of what we're actually dealing with today. So the Robotics and Artificial Intelligence Development Decoy Division, this is an archived announcement, so from some point in the past, presumably before Wolfins Laboratory was eventually quarantined and abandoned, Wolfins Labs is proud to unveil our new line of life-saving decoys. In a world where monsters and mobs roam the wilds through no fault of Wolfins Labs nor any of its subsidiaries, we must be prepared. Wolfins Labs robotics decoys are lifelike replications of players or mobs capable of mimicking the behavior of the player or mob after which they were modeled. They provide the perfect distraction for hostile mobs. The life-saving applications are vast. You know what? It sounds like it. This actually does sound like a great idea. Wolfins Labs asks that you focus on life-saving applications and don't think about possible uses regarding espionage or other unlawful activities which Wolfins Labs has been accused of. Wolfins Labs is not responsible for malfunctioning decoys. Got it. All right, so yeah, that's basically what we're dealing with today. I need a good place to put this for the time being. I think I'm just going to stick it right here. So as far as what the three floors are going to consist of, this door on the left is going to take us downstairs into the actual robot production facility where the robots are made, right? This door on the right will take us into upper kind of supervisory areas where we have catwalks and stuff like that, so we can oversee the production of these decoys. So you guys might have noticed during the intro that I kind of relocated some farms, like this vine farm. I kind of added some newer farms up here. They're manual, they're very basic. I'll kind of explain what those are doing here a bit later. I promise I'm not intentionally trying to just crowd the Waterside district with a bunch of junk. Like I said, I'll discuss it more in a little bit. Right now, though, I really want to go ahead and start getting this project worked on. So we're going to start getting the general structure of this room laid out. And what I'm thinking is that the bottom floor is going to consist of very heavy stone walls, because remember, we're producing robots here. It's going to be very noisy. We don't want any of that noise escaping into the rest of Wolfins Laboratory, disturbing the other, workers and stuff like that. So it's going to be very ruined at the bottom. I'm thinking a lot of mossy, some cracked stone bricks, stuff like that. And we'll kind of transition into more normal stone bricks as we get towards the top. And then as far as the upper floors go, we'll kind of transition into like the standard Wolfins Laboratory cyan and lime terracotta for the supervisory and management areas. All right, so this is a start, and I stress that it is just a start for right now because, we're going to be adding a lot of stuff in here, and I mean a lot of stuff. So, some areas may seem pretty flat, pretty boring, especially these areas up here, a little bit too pristine, but I have some ideas about how we're going to ruin them, and we'll get around to that a bit later, though. But as far as the reason why we're ruining it, remember, the quarantine district is abandoned. It's been quarantined and abandoned due to the corruption caused by the netherworm. You can see we're having this place place kind of crumble. It's falling apart. We got some moisture issues and stuff like that, right? I really should have slept before doing this. It's already nighttime, and you guys probably have a hard time seeing this, but you'll see plenty of it as we continue to build, so I'm not too worried about that. Now, before we actually get around to decorating and trying to make this room look halfway decent, we need to go ahead and get the main features of this room in place. And I think the main feature of this room is going to be the actual production line, the assembly line, where all these robots are put together, right? So we're going to have a bunch of moving pieces in here, and we'll be able to see the construction of these robots. And that should make this build a lot more interesting than it would be otherwise. Now we're going to work on this assembly line section by section. So instead of telling you what I'm going to do with this first section, I'm going to go ahead and try to get it built, then I'll explain it, because if I tell you now, I'm inevitably going to change something and be wrong about what I tell you. So yeah, I'll be back with you guys in just a minute. Well, actually, I can tell you the pieces I am sure of. So we're going to have our yellow and black caution blocks kind of marking off the areas where these robots are actually getting put together. And so these are going to follow along a kind of line of blue ice, which is going to carry our robotic armor stand endoskeletons through this entire process. And we're going to be running our production line into and out of the walls of this room to give the impression that the production line, the actual assembly process, is larger than it actually is, more impressive than it actually is, right? And I think to make this a bit more interesting is we're going to take the armor stand through various heights as well. So if we make this into like kind of a soul sand bubble elevator, we can carry the armor stand up through the room too and add some more interest in it with the production of these robots happening on various heights as well. Lobo says he's not going to take us through the process step by step, but then takes us through the process step by step. Yeah, I caught that too. So I might as well just go ahead and tell you the idea for section 1 since we've come this far. I want to have robotic arms putting these robots together. And we're going to use yellow concrete to make these robotic arms. So that way there's some contrast with the yellow terracotta. As you can tell, these are supposed to be different things, right? Different things. And I believe when we harden this, it does get a bit darker. So it's very similar, but the texture is different. The concrete is much smoother, so that provides us with that little bit of contrast. Now, ideally, I would want to have the robotic arms actually doing stuff. So what I think we're going to do is have the armor stand move over pressure plates and kind of activate like pistons and stuff like that will actually make these arms look like they have some movement, because that's the whole reason we're doing this whole armor stand put together robot process, is to provide a little bit of movement in the build, make it more interesting, right? So now that section 1 is complete, where do we go from here? I'm thinking up and over. And that's going to be section 2, where we'll have dispensers placing the pieces of these robots' bodies together. Please excuse my inability to jump and get to the simplest places. All right, so I need this to be hardened. Excuse me, be back. And I'm thinking section 2 is going to be kind of a short section, kind of recessed into the wall, and then probably right here, we're going to drop it down into section 3, which will be like the inspection area to see how the decoys are looking once they're actually somewhat mostly put together. So boom, up, over, bop, down, and then I think probably like halfway down, like midway between section 1 and section 2 is where we'll place section 3. So that will be probably right about here, and then we'll start having it come out again. Then we'll go ahead and start getting our water streams in just like we did in section 1. And then, what do we do about the insides of the walls here? Definitely not using blue eyes. That stuff is expensive. I think packed might be the way to go here. Yeah, I mean, it's not a perfect match, but it's close enough. Close enough, right? Now, as I said, section 2 is where we're going to have dispensers kind of equipping our armor stands with armor to make them kind of, more fleshed out. But we don't have a whole lot of room in section 2, so I'm thinking I might convert a couple of these droppers over here in section 1, which just kind of made a clicky sound before. We might go ahead and convert these to dispensers, so that way we can go ahead and start the equipping process down here in section 1, and then have it completed up in section 2. All right, so we might run into some issues here. I'm kind of testing out like how the armor stand moves through each of these areas before building up those areas, getting all the redstone and stuff like that. And we do seem to have a slight problem as the armor stand proceeds through section 1 into section 2. So I'll go ahead and give you like a sneak preview of this whole process. The dispensers are not actually filled up yet, so nothing's going to be equipped onto the armor stands, but you can kind of see how it goes through the process. You can see the arms moving, activating, all that stuff. But then as the armor stand makes its way towards section 2, we do run into a slight problem. He just stops. Seems we need to provide our armor stand with a little bit more forward momentum. So I think we're going to go from pushing our armor stand via water streams to actually pulling him into the elevator. And to do that, what we could do is go ahead and drop the water down here. And you heard it, right? He just got pulled forward and then he went up to the top. So just having that little bit of extra water flow. Oh my goodness, it's so hard to get out of here. Having that little bit of extra water flow pulls him, then he gets all the way up into the elevator where he needs to be. All right, so we know what we're doing with section 2 and section 3, the inspection area. I was originally thinking section 3 would be the end of the automated process of moving the armor stand around here. But looking at this, we have so much empty space over here that I think we need a little bit more. So I think from section 3, we're going to go up into a section 4, which is going to be up here and then proceed into the wall on this side. And that's going to be the end of the actual moving of the armor stands. But there's going to be another section that's mostly decorative though, so no moving parts there. So once the armor stand passes through section 4, and this is me talking from a building perspective rather than a lore perspective, we're going to need to break it down and collect the components, right? So what we'll probably end up doing is dropping it below ground and then using a dispenser to kind of shoot an arrow, break the armor stand. That way we get all its components back. We get the armor stand, the armors and all that stuff. And we can put them into a chest probably right over here near the actual start of the process, just so I have easy access. And I think I'm going to make use of a tripwire hook to actually activate the process of destroying the armor stand. So, like, even though we're destroying the armor stand, this is not the end of the decoy, right? The decoy is not being disposed of. It's just the armor stand, like, moving parts stuff. So basically, the armor stand will hit this tripwire hook as it flows through here. The dispenser will fire an arrow. It'll go something like this. The armor stand will say, ow, and get broken down into an item and proceed further down this way where it'll be collected by a hopper. Oh, I'm stuck now, aren't I? Really don't want to go that way. That seems like it's my only option, though. Oh, there we go. All right. But then the armor and the armor stands will wind up back over here, right where they started. I will have to reload the armors and stuff into the dispensers manually. But, you know, it doesn't have to be a fully automated process. This doesn't, because, you know, it's just a fun little side thing. You know, it's just for fun. All right. So at this point, all the redstone is now in place. All the armor stand movement stuff should be fully operational, and it's time to actually decorate this room. Hi, fish. You might not want to go downstream. Don't go that way. There's dangerous stuff down there. Come back up here with your friends. But yeah, we have to decorate this room now. So I think at this point, what we'll go ahead and do is call Not Watchdog on over here, put on a little bit of music, and get to work. Welcome back, everybody. So we have the Robotics and Artificial Intelligence Development Decoy Division built now for the most part. You might have noticed I punched a little hole in the ceiling here, so we're actually going to start taking some stuff away and adding some more stuff, because remember, this place is crumbling, it's falling apart, it is abandoned. And the whole reason for that is because of the corruption resulting from the Nether Worm, which ended Season 1 of Luna, right? So we're going to take some time to explore the corruption that's infecting Wolfins Laboratory, the quarantine district, and its immediately surrounding lands. And this is, I think, going to be the block palette for the corruption. I'm not entirely 100% sold on it, but remember, it was just mycelium at first, and then we couldn't find that, so we decided to add dead coral to it, which I think is going to help greatly. But then with these new blocks, the introduction of these new blocks, specifically the basalt and the warped, yeah, I think we can really do something here. And that kind of goes to explain why we have random warped and crimson farms in the Waterside district now. And I stress this is not their permanent home. Their permanent home will be over in the bad section of the quarantine district, the Botanical Analysis Division. And the farms will be much better than what I have here currently, because right now I'm just spending some time figuring out how everything actually works. I'm sure most of you guys know I'm just now experimenting around with it for the first time. So that's why these things are currently here. We just need some fungi to grow, and then we can get more warped. Hello? Why are you not, grow? I command you, grow. There we go. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and spend a little bit of time just collecting a little tiny bit of this stuff, so that way we can experiment with the corruption inside the Robotics and Artificial Intelligence section of the thing. Yeah, I forgot the name already. I mean, and I definitely need to upgrade from the stone hoe. I mean, I don't think a netherite one is out of the question if we're going to be using a pretty good amount of this stuff. Obviously, crimson works the same way over here as a warp, but that's not all, ladies and gentlemen. No, we also have a little basalt generator over here, which is pretty simple, just like lava, ice, and soul sand. And because we have those three blocks right next to each other, we can get tons and tons of basalt if we need it. So I think we'll probably end up going with this same type of basalt generator once we do once we do actually build a permanent one somewhere in the quarantine district. Now, as I said, I do want to experiment around with the corruption creeping into the Wolfins Robotics and Artificial Intelligence Development Decoy Division. See, got it that time. I got it that time. So, unfortunately, that does mean I'm going to take a little detour, collect some coral. We'll bring that back here and kind of see how it actually looks within a build, right? Instead of just flat on the ground. So we'll go ahead and splash down right over here and start collecting some of these coral blocks and other coral things for use in our build today. Now, as I said, I don't need a ton of stuff. We're just experimenting around today, just trying to see how it actually is going to look within a build. I have been anticipating doing this kind of stuff, though. You know, that's the reason why I said I wanted to build a coral farm over at WARF, the Wolfins Aquatic Research Facility. That didn't just come out of nowhere, you know. Occasionally, I do kind of, you know, have a little bit of foresight and start planning some stuff out. Obviously, we haven't gotten around to it yet. I've been meaning to, but there's so much else to do. But anyway, let me go ahead and collect some of this stuff, and I'll meet you back over at the quarantine district. Then as far as what's creeping into the building, the corruption that's creeping into the buildings, we're going to go with predominantly corals and basalt and the warped. And we're going to save the mycelium for like the actual landscaping, the grounds and stuff like that, to offer a little bit more variety in that respect. But yeah, let me go ahead and just kind of figure out how this is going to look. I'm just kind of placing stuff randomly, hoping it's going to turn out okay. We'll back up in a little bit and see like what we actually think of it. All right, so I blocked off the ceiling. Let's see what we actually think of it, and you can barely see it at all. But that's okay, I think. I think that's okay, because we want some of that to be not as apparent as other places. For instance, in this well-lit area over here, we can go ahead and start adding some corruption creeping in through this area as well. And hopefully that gives more of the effect that we want. Yeah, I'm liking this. I'm liking this a little bit better. Obviously, it's something I'm going to have to play around with a little bit to get like how I want the corruption to actually feel as it's creeping in. But yeah, I think we're off to a good start. Give me another few minutes here. Yeah, I think adding a bit of depth is what's really going to start selling this. Like we start having protrusions and indentations and all that mess. But since we are adding full blocks to dark areas, I think we're also going to need to make sure we don't have mobs spawning on those blocks. So I'm going to go ahead and take some buttons and just kind of place those around where I think they need to be, which also has the benefit of added protrusions, which is nice. Now, before I show you guys the finished product, I do want to go ahead and fill out the dispensers with armors and stuff like that, so that way we can see the whole decoy making process. So let me go ahead and see what we can find here. I don't have expendable boots. Decoys don't get diamond. I mean, we do have some zombie and skeleton hand-me-downs that we could give the decoys. That might be good. So that should just about do it for the Wolfins Robotics and Artificial Intelligence Development Decoy Division, RAIDDD for short. And this build is about ambiance. You know, we want it to be dark, we want it to be foreboding, abandoned, desolate, crumbling, ruined. And I think we achieved that for the most part. And this place, though it has been abandoned, is still semi-operational. At least, like, Wolfins Laboratory, if they wanted to, could still come down here and create decoys and stuff like that. So we'll be able to see the process of how these decoys are actually made. And I think that adds a good amount of lore to this area. Some good lore to the quarantine district. You can see that decoy just got some boots placed on his endoskeleton, representing his feet, of course. He'll also get his legs. And if we go up a little bit further, we should be able to see him get his body and his head as well. Mob heads would be good to use for, like, you know, placing the heads on them. Right now I just went with helmets, but we can always add the mob heads to that dispenser over there a bit later. We just have to get some charged creepers and blow them up, right? But yeah, you can see, like, I added a little bit of light here and there, but not enough so you can actually see what's going on, not enough so this area feels comfortable, right? But the decoy should be popping up here into section 4, and then he will go off into the wall, and then that's going to be the end of the armor stand portion of this. But that's not the end of the decoys, because we have a kind of a, you know, they've been in water, right? You can't activate a robot when it's been in water. That's electrocution hazard. So we have them coming over to this kind of drying area, I guess you would call it. This is where they ultimately go. You can see it's black down there. We just put some black terracotta, some black glass panes over it to kind of represent the darkness, or kind of emphasize the darkness of it. But yeah, you can see we have some finished decoys ready to go here. This guy looks somewhat familiar. So I guess that means we can safely assume that the replacement watchdog is a decoy. That's one mystery solved, but we still need to figure out what happened to the real watchdog. But let's go ahead and break from the lore here. So you can see the armors and the armor stand have ended up back in this barrel, which gives me easy access to them to kind of replace everything, reset everything. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw all this stuff back here where it belongs. Obviously, we're not gonna have this thing running constantly, making decoy after decoy. That would be pointless. This place is shut down after all. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the chest plate and the helmet away too. I'll go ahead and show you where we do that. Eventually we'll make some kind of little access tunnel that grants us access to this area back here. But basically, to put the helmet and chest plate away in their dispensers, we just open up these trapdoors and toss them into their spots. Now, so that's it for the decoy division of the RAID facility. We only did the interior today because exteriors, they're not going to be done yet. Not until all the Wolfins Laboratory interior stuff is done and we know the actual size of the building, that's when we can actually get an exterior to this place. But yeah, I think that's going to go ahead and wrap it up for us today. That was fun. I like little projects like this. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please feel free to hit that little thumbs up button. That'd mean a whole lot to me. If you want to see more, please remember to subscribe. And as always, I just want to thank you guys for hanging out today. I deeply appreciate it. And until next time, I am Lobo, and I will see you guys later.